Chicago just got ghosted by NASCAR. For 3 straight summers, stock cars tore through downtown streets in front of a national television audience. Now, silence. No burnouts past the Buckingham Fountain, no green flag on Michigan Avenue. NASCAR just confirmed the Chicago Street Race is dead for 2027, and the reason why exposes a much bigger problem brewing in professional motorsports. Here's the breakdown. NASCAR and the city of Chicago could not close a deal in time to lock in a 2027 street race. Negotiations collapsed over money, specifically a $10 million gap in state funding that never got resolved. At the same time, NASCAR dropped a second announcement. Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, a traditional oval track that sat dormant since 2019, is officially back on the Cup Series schedule for June 25th through 27th, 2027. That track relaunched this past July 4th weekend to a sellout crowd of 50,000 fans from 31 countries, with Chase Briscoe taking the checkered flag. So NASCAR isn't leaving Chicago. It's relocating roughly 40 miles southwest, trading skyscrapers for a traditional oval. To understand why this stings, you have to go back to 2023. NASCAR made a massive bet by shutting down Grant Park and turning it into a temporary street circuit, dropping stock cars into the shadow of the Chicago skyline. It was a spectacle built to hook new fans who never watched a race in their life. For 3 years, it worked, mostly. The event pulled in national TV coverage and put NASCAR in front of eyeballs that never would have found a traditional oval broadcast. But the race also came with baggage. Torrential rain disrupted multiple editions. Local residents and city officials pushed back on road closures and disruption to daily life downtown. And financially, NASCAR bled money every single year it ran the event, even as the city collected an annual $2 million payment and turned a modest profit of its own. This year, the race didn't happen in Chicago at all. It got shipped out to Naval Base Coronado in San Diego on a 1-year arrangement, while NASCAR and city officials tried to hammer out better terms for a return. Those terms never materialized. The state of Illinois put $5 million on the table. NASCAR wanted 15. Nobody blinked, and the scheduled deadline came and went. Here's where this gets interesting from a strategic standpoint, because this isn't really a story about one canceled race. It's a story about NASCAR recalibrating its entire approach to market expansion. Street races are expensive theater. You're not just running a race, you're closing down a major American city building, temporary grandstands and barriers from scratch, coordinating with police, dealing with weather exposure in an urban environment with zero natural drainage advantages, and doing it all for one weekend before tearing it down again. The Chicago data backs this up. A 2024 economic impact study found the race generated $128 million in regional spending and over $43 million in media exposure value for the city. Genuinely massive numbers. But almost none of that value flowed back to NASCAR's own ledger. The organization was underwriting a marketing campaign disguised as a race weekend, and marketing campaigns eventually get put under a microscope. Compare that to Joliet, a permanent oval facility, infrastructure already built, a fan base with decades of history in the region, and a debut weekend that pulled 50,000 people through the gates without a single road closure downtown. From a pure cost versus return standpoint, it's not close. So, is walking away from Chicago's streets smart or dangerous? Both. Honestly, it's smart financially. NASCAR stops hemorrhaging cash on an event that never turned a profit for the sport itself. But it's risky from a brand growth perspective. Street races were never really about profit margins. They were about relevance. Getting NASCAR in front of an audience that skips right past a traditional Sunday broadcast. Pull that away and you risk sliding back into preaching to the same core audience instead of expanding it. The smartest read here is that NASCAR isn't abandoning the street race concept. It's applying pressure by keeping its downtown Chicago office open and continuing community programs even without a race. The league is signaling this is a pause, not a breakup, and putting the burden back on the city and state to come up with better funding before NASCAR commits again. Expect a split reaction here. Traditional NASCAR fans, the ones who grew up on oval racing, are going to see this as a return to form. Joliet feels like home turf, and the sellout crowd this July proves there's real hunger for it. But the casual fans and new viewers the street race pulled in, they may not follow the sport to a suburban oval track the same way they showed up for a skyline backdrop. Media coverage is likely to frame this as a step backward for NASCAR's crossover ambitions, even while local Chicago outlets emphasize that the city itself didn't lose much financially and even profited slightly from the arrangement. Best case scenario, Illinois lawmakers feel pressure from constituents and local businesses who benefited from race weekend, close the funding gap, and NASCAR returns to Grant Park in 2028 with a cleaner, better negotiated deal. Everybody wins, and the street race becomes a rotating fixture instead of a one-off gamble. Worst case scenario, the funding standoff drags on NASCAR quietly shifts its expansion energy toward a different city entirely. And Chicago's 3-year street racing experiment becomes a cautionary tale other municipalities point to when NASCAR comes calling with a pitch for their own downtown circuit. So here's the real question. Was the Chicago street race ever sustainable to begin with, or was it always going to collapse under its own cost the moment the hype wore off? Drop your take in the comments. Traditional oval racing or downtown street spectacle? Which one actually grows this sport long term? If you want the breakdown the moment NASCAR makes its next scheduling move, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is far from over.